Fine.
There we go. All right, now we're recording.
And you can hear me okay?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, cool.
We're getting to see you here in A Million Little Things, and boy, has Rome been through it the last few seasons. Where do we pick up with him in the winter premiere?
Uh, we pick up with Rome uh, and Regina still reeling from losing the baby that they thought they were going to adopt, that they put a lot of time and sacrifice into uh, uh, preparing for. And uh, where Rome is specifically is dealing with the fact that he's currently feeling as though Regina resents him for uh, for everything that has occurred. And he understands, he knows that she's more rational than that, but right now, that's where they are.
It took a lot to convince Regina to have children. Does Rome feel kind of like this is his only chance to have kids and he really just wants to keep pushing for it? Or does he understand that, she only wanted this at the moment because, he kind of convinced her into doing it?
Well, the door's been open, and so sometimes it's like uh, so so that saying of like I don't know what it is, but it's like sometimes like you don't know you want it until you almost have it, you know, and then all of a sudden you miss it so much more than you ever did before. And I think that that's something that's going on with Rome, but also like Regina said in the in the season finale of season two, she said, "You made me want this." And so when we come into the new season, as you can see, there's an opportunity for them to have a new baby. And he and Regina are sharing very different philosophies on how they should go about that.
And they're balancing this all while their friend, has had this accident and he's in a wheelchair with everything going on with a possible new baby, with Rome's movie. How much time will he be able to invest in sort of his care of his friend?
First of all, the word balance, it's overused like the word love and genius. They're not balancing nothing. They ain't balancing a damn thing. I'm just joking around, but you know, I kind of feel like I'm living Rome's life right now with a lot going on. But fortunately, my baby made it and is healthy. But I don't think that Rome and Regina have the answers. I don't think that Rome knows how he's going to be there for his boy. I don't know if he knows how he's going to be there for his woman. I don't even know, based on Rome's history, if Rome knows how he's going to be there for himself. And so uh, he's got a dad who who's a widower, right? Well, like when you a man can be a widower, right?
Yes, yes.
So he's lost his mother, he lost the baby, he lost his movie, and this is new territory for Rome, right? Because though he's suffered from depression and dealt with things in before, losing a parent takes things to a different height. But losing a parent and a child and your dream all in one swoop is due to COVID-19 is a lot. So again, I think Rome's kind of like trying to figure out like where he needs to put his focus to preserve himself before really and truthfully being there for anyone else, because he's kind of on the verge of losing his wife as well.
Well, he's got his own movie coming up as well. Will it give us a little more insight into how Rome became the person he is and maybe a little bit more about his struggles with mental health?
Yeah, I think that Rome's movie has this. It touches on that quite a bit. It's about that story, but I think that uh, his movie is really more therapeutic, right? It wasn't made for anyone but himself and the people he believes who could relate. And so, in that way, I think that what he, at least in what I understand, is it was him trying to give people an understanding of how intelligent, loving, conscious people could all be such a tight clique and lose such a significant person, uh, and completely be aware to the fact that that person was suicide, and completely be oblivious to the fact that the person was even capable of it, contemplating it. So um, uh, I think that yes, you get some insight to what Rome deals with depression, but I think it also has a lot to do with, and probably more so has a lot to do with, um, giving the audience and giving the people around us uh, maybe a better understanding of how to identify it in themselves.
Well, he's lost his mom, he's lost a child, he's lost a best friend. How much more do we think Rome can take at this point? I mean, he's actually stronger if he's pushing for this child to keep trying. I mean, did DJ go over with you sort of what's going through his current headspace, or if it's pushing his depression to the forefront a little more?
Um, I think I, from what I've discussed with DJ, and you're gonna laugh, yes, he's dealt with Rome's dealt with all this loss, but there's so much more ahead that Rome has to deal with, contend with, that this, there isn't time to really sit and effectively deal with any particular issue. It's like Rome gets hit with the pandemic too. And like everyone else in the world, we all had to adjust on the fly. And so, does that bring him and Regina closer together? Does that add more financial strain because of the fact that the restaurant can only be at half capacity? What he ain't got time to? He ain't really got time to get in there and, as he's always said, do the work. He doesn't have the time. From what I understand, he's just steamrolled with the pandemic and the domino effect of everything that happens as a result of it.
This is such an intense and deep drama, and you're such a light individual outside of all of this. I mean, how do you shake off then an intense day of filming?
Okay, I want to answer this question, but I feel like there's a delay. You're getting a delay in my voice?
A little bit, but it's fine now.
Okay, because I can fix that. I think I can fix it now. You ready?
Yes.
Okay, so one down, and check this out. You can barely hear me, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you can really hear me now, can't you?
No, it's still the same.
But you can really hear me
There
now,
we go.
can't
Yeah.
you?
Yeah.
All right. I thought I was okay. Sorry. So yeah, I would say, look, I come across as a light individual because I've had an unusual amount of hardship. My upbringing is a unique upbringing. And I think I just learned early in the game how to make light of this stuff and how to talk about it. I learned early. And it has given me uh, like prime example. Wait, I don't know. How deep do you want me to get here? Because I can just give you like a nice glossy Hollywood answer and leave it alone. Would you rather that?
No, I want your real thoughts.
Do you really?
Yeah, of
Look, man,
course.
I was I was raised in a kind of dysfunction that really messes with your self-esteem. I witnessed and was subjected to things that no child should be subjected to. And I then went on to become an adult who continuously subjected myself to those things. And um, what I found was it stunted my growth in areas where there's this little bit of like a Peter Pan thing going on. And so as a result of that, um, uh, I was forced to kind of evaluate myself and realize like, wow, this is really a byproduct of this is my coping mechanism. I've created this thing where if I'm light and entertaining, I would be accepted. Major issues with abandonment and all kinds of other things. I think I was just trying to find ways to reduce the risk of abandonment, reduce the risk of experiencing the vulnerability of feeling not wanted or not liked. And and I created this kind of banal personality that I believe helped me get there. And it's only as I've gotten older, maybe over the actually married and divorced, and over the last 12 years or so, that I've um, gotten a lot more honest and a lot more comfortable with myself. But that light perception is there's something that happens. I can't even explain it. Where even to this day, there's not enough trust in myself to completely just be myself when I'm looking at a camera or when I'm doing a movie or in Hollywood. You know what I mean? And so um, I think that DJ, being of a similar ilk, our showrunner, he identified that in me. And that's why he started pitching this movie to me 2.5 years before it was even written.
My goodness. So I know he's taken a bit of input then from each of you. Did you give him some of your personal history then, and he sort of buffered it in to Rome who he is, or highlighted your sense of humor for him, or what aspects then of yourself do you see resonating in Rome?
Well, me and DJ are friends, so like it was. I've never sat down and done an interview, and I went through this and I went through that. He and I have just we've always shared our perspectives on everything that we're dealing with, not just in our country, but in our lives, not just in our lives, but in our country and in the world, and being parents. Um, and so I definitely feel as though there are instances where like he's definitely putting my life into stuff. He does that with all of us, really. And I don't know if you remember the whole instance about us being at the park and the black dude being and them being like, "What is the black dude doing here taking pictures of our girls? You shouldn't be here," that kind of thing. And that there was this whole speech, in the back of the car. DJ was came to me and was like, "We need you to make this speech. We need what do you want to say here?" And I was actually saying shit that I'd actually said before, which is true. I walk into a grocery store and I telegraph my receipt when I walk out of it. I don't put my hands in my pockets when I'm in the grocery store because I'm feared that I'm going to be accused of stealing. I if I'm coming down an aisle and a woman's purse is on the right side, meaning facing the inside of the aisle, I instinctually turn around and just go down another aisle. You know, um, when I'm walking behind a Caucasian woman in, anywhere, and I realize that I'm walking faster than she is, I will make a huge banana into the street and then back in. That's just what the only place that I don't do that as much is in New York. But if it's crowded, but if it's not a crowded street and it's just me and like another woman walking the street, I'll make sure to do that because you know, I understand that something about not knowing me, a woman or anyone having to deal with a male figure coming up behind them, but also there's the stigma that has been perpetuated from the very beginning in the United States, starting with Native Americans, Mexicans, African Americans, and all this. I'm like, starting with Native Americans, African Americans, Mexican Americans. I'm like, it is what it is, and I'm not saying that I settled for it, but I've just been conditioned uh, to circumvent uh, the uh, the the potential consequences of someone reacting out of fear because of how they perceive people of color, black people, and so uh, he wanted that really he wanted it to be authentic and he wanted me to write it. You know what I mean? I was like, nah, dude, I don't know. I ain't qualified. You got a room full of rock star writers in there. Don't but yeah, he does take our input, and he continues to insert things into our life. I personally have never, I'm not genetically predisposed to depression, but I do believe that I've gone through depression, particularly after at the end of my music career. But I've never had any conversations with DJ about me being depressed, other than stuff like that. And the reason is because as I was agreeing to take this job on, one of the things that I wanted to make sure I did was get a much better understanding of what depression means. And uh, once you really begin to understand the cases, you start realizing that there's a difference, you know? So, um, yeah. So anyway, so yeah, um,
Hopefully
I
that
think I'm
question's not going to stick with you for the rest of the day.
could be.
Um, what have you
Yeah.
personally taken away from your time working on this beautiful, nuanced series?
I've learned to be more sensitive. I think that Roma and Regina kind of actually set some standards for my own relationship. I think that I'm a lot more empathetic to people who are cancer survivors. I'm a lot more empathetic to people who deal with depression. I'm a lot clearer on who I want to be in the world. Having a son who's on the spectrum, I have an 11-year-old who's on the spectrum. He's opened my world up, and he's given me like crash course on patience and unconditional love. And so, um, in some ways, he has helped inform my character on a million little things, and in some ways, a million little things has helped inform how I deal with my little man. And I've become just a lot more grateful uh, for survivors of depression, survivors of cancer, survivors. I think this show has definitely given me. I think that whether we want to or not, some of us want to believe that some of these things are things that we can snap out of. Can't talk this stuff away, especially if you're genetically predisposed. Can't talk this stuff away with a you can't talk isn't going to do it. It's, I understand now that it's a life commitment, and I just didn't have that information before. And also, it helped me understand that wow, I grew up around a lot of depressed people.
So it gives you insight into who your past was and how it formed you a little bit as well, then.
You know, yeah, like and I think I'm still working on that, but I do understand now that I understand why my dad drank. I understand why certain people within my neighborhoods and communities were the way they were. Um, and I also understand how their past played into their depression, played into their tendencies. Um, and as time progresses, it's a lifelong process. I'm learning more and more about how those things played into my life. And I think this show is helping me make some connections, you know, uh, between people that were in our circle. Because, my family's Trinidadian. They came to the United States of America, got set up, and then helped other Trinidadians get into the country. And culturally, these weren't things that were discussed. So we kind of grew oblivious to it. My son, I'm a stepfather, but my son is 11 years old. He's on the spectrum. My best friend, when I was 14 years old, was on the spectrum. Um, and yes, to answer your question, so yes, I'm learning about myself every day. I mean, the only reason I'm even in acting is because I learn about myself every day, every job. I learn about myself. That's the only reason I do this.